sometimes I don't get this thing. Been trying to get this to work right, and I am just now kind of seeing it. So hopefully my audio is coming through well. Hopefully the background music's coming in well. All right, so I can hear myself, so things are started. So let me start by saying, hey guys, it's Nicholas James Spencer here, and yes, I know, super late. And honestly, one reason I'm doing this right now today, not tomorrow, is because I fear something else is going to happen, and I will not have time. And you will understand why I wasn't able to do it last Saturday, and decided for that, and so on and so forth. So, um, what I have going on here, yeah, I had a feeling it was gonna make me do that. Because there's a way I should be able to like look at what I'm doing right now. Right now, it's like, okay, you're not doing anything. I'm like, okay, sure, whatever, what have you. Um, so as you see here, the topic is all right. So the way I do it, I'm gonna try to do it is from most recent to and then backwards from that. And the most recent thing is found out yesterday that my son's mom is in a relationship, which normally I wouldn't necessarily care about. Um, what technically has me, I don't want to say like in a tough hole or anything. Like I in a tough, that's a word. It is, but it's not what I even use. Um, so the thing that actually like has me the most concerned was it is the fact that the person that she's in this relationship with is the person that she had an affair with for over half of our marriage. And I know like you guys are probably out there saying like, hey, yeah, just let it go. It doesn't really mean anything. Because you're already past that. You're living a good life. You're doing anything that you're doing good. I'm like, yeah, I get that. I'm not even worried about it. Like, however she wants to mess up her life with her selected group of friends or whatever, that's completely different. That really doesn't have anything to do with me left by the silence. What it does, what definitely had me more concerned, especially when I heard it, was like we just started overnight stays, right? We just started overnight stays, and the idea, and and to me, the dynamic of that situation um, changes whenever the person that you're cheating on me with is, is directly influencing my son, or make like I don't know, and then that's really the big thing. The thing is like, oh, I don't know like what my son's being told, what's being said around him, how people are behaving around him, that kind of stuff. You would think would be something that like one I should know, and two should be something that should be kind of discussed, and that honestly would have affected so much. It definitely would have put me in a situation where I would have required requested more to understand the environment that I was put my son into. Because yeah, I am now doing that. I am not putting him in this situation. And my mind's like, okay, well, I'm not trying to take that. I'm not sure. Like, especially when I first got it, it's kind of like a lot of stuff, like stuff, especially a lot of stuff from like the past, kind of coming back, like, oh, okay, and then flashback, like, oh yeah, we just, and I'm gonna be talking about, I'll be touching on the different points here and there. But, like, there were like a lot that happened in the past couple weeks that, if I would have known the information I know now, would have affected those things differently. Um, so yeah, so finding out that she got back with that guy, and keep in mind, it the therapy that I had to go through to be able to understand and process the situation that she put me through, he's part of it. So it was kind of like she was my biggest concern, but I'm like, as long as I don't ever have to see that guy, I'm totally okay. And now the idea that not only will I potentially have to see this guy will potentially also be influencing, well, he'll be influencing the environment that my son will be exposed to. And me as a father, I'm concerned about that, obviously. And 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 and, and I my mind always goes back to the idea of I did this because I thought it wouldn't matter, but it does. Um, my my main concern has to always be him, be my son, and what I believe is best for him. And if I feel that any situation, it doesn't even have to be like nefarious or malicious or anything like that. If I just don't feel that that environment is period good, I should be able to be like, nope. Right? Not even like in like a spiteful kind of way, just kind of like, I'm not okay with it. Period. Like I don't really need to give an explanation on it. Now, what makes it muggier is the fact that obviously his mom also has a potential, a partial say in that. So trying to figure out, okay, what is my next move in this? So it took me about a day to kind of, how do I say this without? So it took me a day to realize, no, not realize. It took me a day to find out. I'm gonna say find out that he doesn't live with her, which means that whenever he goes there, he that the that this new old boyfriend or older new boyfriend is not the default member of the house. Granted, his sister is, so it's kind of like, but since like he's not the default, it gives me a little bit less to worry about, but it's still a concern, and what have you. And don't think this guy has a clean slate. He has, you know what? I'm trying to think about what can I say that won't get me in trouble later, but nonsense don't get me in trouble regardless. But like, his, no. I don't want to say something and then be like, oh, that's not true. That's not completely true. You don't know the whole story. So I could just easily say, I just don't like the guy. I don't need to like the guy. But I should be informing people around my son. And if this is someone that is going to be around him quite a bit, that should be a conversation had. Not a conversation hit. And she tends to hide so many things. So yeah, I honestly dealt with this in the past 24 hours. So there's that. Now, last week, and I could actually put this down, hold on. Last week, believe it or not, I was in court. Yes, I was in court. I was in court for, yes, child support. And I know the dynamic is like, oh, mostly guys go to child support because they need to pay child support. That happens to not be the case here. Hold on, let me try something. Can you still hear my audio? Oh, not good. Okay, just wanted to double check that. So I went to this child support hearing, and well, mediation to tell you the truth. And honestly, I felt I dressed appropriately. I dressed good in my opinion. Black suit, blue shirt, black and blue sneaks. Like I look fresh. Not gonna lie, I was kind of feeling myself. No lie. But she showed up and everything, and I'm not gonna go through the whole detail of this because I don't think I really necessarily need to, but like that needs to be a video, then I can make that into a video. And then I have made videos, but I will talk about once again about that stuff later. But the hearing, she was not happy with how much that she had to pay. She came in there very smug, very like like what's the old school saying? And I think only old heads would know, like, oh, the cat of the cat of the walk or something like that. She definitely came in there until she heard how much she had to pay. She's like, why do I have to pay that? And the mediator was like, when the paperwork was filed, keep in mind, but then I said she kind of strutted in there. She was strutting in there, going like, I told him that he could do this a year ago. I don't know why it took a year to do this. I'm like, because I don't need your money. I don't need it. It's your responsibility. He's your son that you pay child support. Once again, that's something that I needed to say, because when you're in these meetings, you don't. Since I'm in this particular position of this meeting, I don't need to defend anything. I don't need to explain anything. I didn't need to be like A, B, C, and this is what that is. And whenever she heard how much she has to pay, she's like, I lost my job two weeks ago. And my mom was like, excuse me? Was not a conversation had, was not anything told to me. You were just hoping to slide right out of this. And the mediator was like, when the paperwork was filed, you had a job. When you found out you had this meeting, so you didn't have a job. So that just seems suspicious, and we don't care. So we're basing this on when you had a job, when the paperwork was filed. And then she threw a tantrum, like a full-grown adult tantrum of like slinging accusations of crying about not being able to afford a car, this, that, and everything else. It was really a spectacle, and she even made a statement that she cannot pay that. She will not pay that, and my mind goes, then she's gonna go to jail. I'm like, okay, well, that being the case, she I know her well enough that she might actually take that avenue of I'd much rather go to jail than pay you a penny. In my mind, I go, our son deserves something out of you other than you think that it's okay for you to see him like visually. Like you need to help. Like granted, whenever I went to mediation court a couple years back, they looked at what I made regularly. And they go, okay, well, if we took anything out of that, you wouldn't have anything to live on. I'm like, yeah, I know, but like, I'm willing to pay. And I even said, like, yo, I'll pay even the smallest amount. And she herself was like, no, don't even worry about it. I'm like, cool. Where now she's in this situation where, and keep in mind, the money that I was offering was nowhere near the money that they were recommending her to pay. And keep in mind, she had a job. We switched things around her job that she just recently got less than 2 months ago, which is usually her MO, 2 to 3 months of a job, and then something happens, she no longer has a job anymore. And the job paid so well that it was this decent sum. And she's like, well, I can't pay that. I'm not going to pay that. And my mind goes, well, as much as it's not really my problem, my son does deserve something. I'm like, all right, so I was like, do you want to go to court about this? She goes, will I be responsible for the money? And they go, yes, you will still be responsible for the money between now and court. That doesn't get paused for that. And she goes, well, I'm not going to pay that. I'll be sitting in jail. And just that. And whenever, she's throwing a lot of things out there. I'm putting it very nicely. And my mind kind of goes, okay, so she doesn't want to go to court again. Hell, I don't want to be here anymore. Because it's like, to me, her reaction was just ridiculous. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't want to do this in the future. And who knows, like maybe if she does go to court, she might get a lenient judge and be like, okay, well, rather than this big sum of money that you get this very, very small sum. Because she can't pay, because then it'll be looking at it from the next time that I file the paperwork when she doesn't have a job. So my mind kind of goes, okay, well, the best course of action would be to offer to reduce it. So I'm like, hey, how about this? We go half. You know, not we go half. You pay half of what they're asking, and that shouldn't be too hard for you. You just claim that like you buy him this, that, whatever. You should be able to, you know, cough this up so that still happens. Just on my end. I don't mean this to make it sound like bad. I know the opposite sounds bad, but like it's still the idea that once again the goal is for her to take that level of responsibility and not just be the parent that he can kind of go hang out with, the more friend and parent kind of thing. So I'm like, okay, we'll just pay half, and if you do that, you can't change nothing. You can't go to court after that because you already made this agreement. The only one who could change it at that point would be me. And she's like, fine, and she takes it, and she storms out of there as soon as she signs the paperwork. Storms out. And it's just kind of like, wow. But like that happened last week, and that was just, that was the whole January, the month of January, me being just like, okay, how is this going to go? What's going to happen? And I didn't think they were going to try to recommend as much. And if I knew that she would in any way, shape, or form pay that much, I would have stayed that much. But I knew she wasn't. Even if she made 5 times as much, she wouldn't pay that much just to spite me. Even regardless of what she says. Which is why the half was a thing. Now, you know, if she ever gets a job, sorry, when she gets a job, yeah, I changed that. When she gets a job, and I know, and I can go to, you know, the domestics office and be like, hey, she got a job, let's try to raise that up. Then I can. Whereas, you know, she can't be like, oh, I can't pay this. Can we lower it down? They're gonna be like, you already agreed to the now recommended amount. He tried to offer you the court thing. You said no. You took this agreement between you two. She cannot take that down. So if she does not pay it at that half, my mind goes, I'm the one giving the olive branch. I'm trying to make things work for my son's benefit, not for me. because once again, I don't need, like, we've been able to manage just fine with what gets brought in here. This would just benefit him, like when he needs to go to scouts, he has extra curricular activities, that kind of stuff. It will benefit him in that retrospect. Anything else, like he's good now. He is good now. The money is just extra. Because if she were to die tomorrow, it's not gonna be like, oh, what am I gonna do? I don't have that money. Like, I don't care. I don't care, because once again, that money only benefits him extra. He's good now. He can afford everything now. I'm doing my best to budget and everything now. I don't need her money. Her money is good for him. It only benefits him, and it just puts things in a different perspective, so that, like, if he needs anything, I can kind of go like, okay, yeah, we got that now. Like, you know, oh, that, like, you know, can I do this extra thing last minute? Like, sometimes he just pull things up like last minute, like, hey, I want to do this thing, and I know I said I didn't want to do it before, but I want to do it now. I'm like, okay, cool. Luckily, your mom did this, so we got this extra funds. So when here you go, I was able to allocate this, that, whatever. So it's good that this happens, but it hasn't happened yet. I just checked the account this morning. This is 0. So, like, you know, who knows? Maybe the end of February something will show up there. If not, then may the fates forever be in her favor. I don't know. So there is that, and that. All right, so that happened. So what happens now, what I'm going to talk about now, is going to be a little bit more on a lecturing side. Not really lecturing, but how do I want to say it? It's going to be a little bit more on the, like, this is my point of view. So something of, all right, so people don't talk about things that aren't, like, pleasing. Like separations, divorces, that kind of stuff, and what people, I realize, they really don't talk about, or at least I don't hear about, is that co-parenting is secretly a competition every time. Like, it's hard, yes, it is hard, but secretly it is, like, underneath the hardness is a competition of, I'm the better parent than this parent. And I say that because I've been on both spectrums. Whenever our son was born, me and his mom were obviously together for the first 2 years, and then 8 years after that was me struggling to be able to see him beyond video calls every week. It wasn't until, like, the last 2 months before I got him that, alright, so a year before the last 2 months, I was able to see him through an organization called the Children's Aid Society, and they were really great, but then their services ended because they stopped getting grants and funding for such programs. So the next step was like, okay, well, let's do overnight stays, and that lasted for like a month or two, and then, like, it was like October or November where she was like, I am being evicted, there's no way out of it, and I don't want him to be in a situation where he's jumping couches with me. I'm like, bet, cool. The 8 years of court meant nothing. I could have potentially waited everything out, and then, just kind of, like, gotten the reward at this point. But honestly, I wouldn't have been as prepared as I was, and even then, I wish I was a bit more prepared. But regardless, during those 8 years, I had the benefit of being that parent. I was like, hey, I got you this. Hey, let's do some fun things. Hey, like, whenever we did the face-to-face, we did science projects, we made lava lamps, we made volcanoes, we did a water tornado before. Whenever we did the video calls, we played hide and go seek, we read, we worked on letters, sign language, that kind of stuff. So, like, that's kind of like the fun stuff that you can do as, and I'm gonna say it like this, and this is not exactly how I feel, but this word fits the description the best way I know how to say it. I did not like being in this position, but I did the best I could in the position. I felt like I was like a part-time dad. Oh yeah, I'm here and I'm doing the best I can, but I'm only allowed so many hours, so, like, I can only do so much. So I try to make the small amount of time that I did have to be fun, to be educational, to be beneficial. So at that time, I wasn't really trying to, like, oh, am I doing better than her? My mind was like, oh, she is the primary parent.
that the courts appointed and everything else. So I wasn't gonna fight that. I was just trying to make the best of my situation. Now I'm on the other side where, like, I deal with him on a daily basis, and I say deal like, once again, lack of a better term. But like, I take him to school. We work on homework. I'm the one that chases him to take to do the nighttime routines. I had to deal with tantrums. I had to deal with everything. Like, I deal with all of that, and like, there are some times that we do have fun moments, but I have to admit that it wasn't as often as whenever I was a part-time dad. I didn't care to be a part-time dad. This is what I wanted. This is what I want to do, and I'm learning to be better, because how I am now is better than how I was a year ago, and how I am a year ago is better how I was the previous year, and how and I'm happy for that growth. I'm happy for that experience, and I hope that it helps guide him to be a better man, a better version of himself, and everything else. But I do realize that now his mom is on the side of, like, let's do fun stuff, because I only get to see you, like, before it was like only for like an hour, then 3 hours, then 6 hours, like gradually upward into now is over the weekend, and it's still the idea of, like, oh, she's the fun parent now, and I'm the one that's like, okay, now I need to worry about how to feed you, clothe you, get a roof over your head, make sure you have school activities, make sure you know where you're going. And once again, this is connected to what the story I'm going to tell next, but like, all of this is kind of like this is the thing that people don't talk about. The idea, like, this is it's an unintentional, sometimes unintentional competition between the two parents of trying to figure out, okay, who is the fun one, who is the one that the child wants to be with. Because as the child gets older, the child gets to make that choice. Like, oh yeah, I want to spend more time with dad, or I want to spend more time with mom. And as a teenager, it's gonna be like, who do I have more fun with? Who lets me get away with so much more? And who's more relaxed? And obviously the parent who obviously is trying to keep things together. Like, oh, I need to focus on this. I need to take care of that. I need to do da 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 da. And the other parent is kind of like, I only need to take care of myself and occasionally you. So I have a lot more, like, wiggle room. So that's something that I feel like not enough people talk about, and two, that's definitely the situation I'm in right now, where I realize that, like, he'll come back from his mom like, oh yeah, I did this, that, and that. I'm like, well, how about the fun that we have? And I realize that, like, we don't have as much fun in, like, a weekend. Like, we probably have, like, fun, like, within a week or two, like, that kind of level of fun. But I'm always busy doing A, B, C, and D, and I have to do A, B, C, D through Z squared to make sure that everything works as well as I know how to make it work. So I'm learning that, and I'm totally aware it shouldn't be a competition. It should be for the benefit of the child, and I do believe that for the majority part it is. But once again, underneath the surface, it is always it is always a competitive thing, and I believe the child is the reason for the competitiveness. The idea that a child will, once again, pick the fun parent, and you always want to be the fun parent. The war of fear that one child would not want to live with you because you are trying to do right and keeping them focused on things like homework and chores, while the other parent has the advantage of being the cool parent because it's always fun with them, because you, as the primary, has to be the parent that's doing the right thing. Now, the fear is that I'm going to hear from him one day, I don't want to live with you. I want to live with them, and in my mind, I think I would feel like a failure. I would feel that everything that I am doing, that everything I have done, has been for nothing. It's like, fuck. You're like, it's that fear. That is the biggest fear I have, is that, like, oh, I would lose that competition, and that is what's going to happen. So there's a lot of emotions, because, especially in my situation, where, like, I fought for him for 8 years. I went to court. I learned things. I went to courses on my own accord. I learned court things because of the situation. I couldn't even get an affordable lawyer. So I'm like, okay, well, then the next best thing for me to do is to, and and I don't have any kind of financial backing. I don't have anybody like, oh, I'll pay for a lawyer for you. Like, I didn't have none of that. So my next best option was, okay, well, I need to learn law. that was my logic. So I learned how to do the forms. I learned what the terms meant. I tried to pick up on this, that, and whatever. So, like, for 8 years I fought to get him, and it isn't like and it's not like he knows that. Like, or even if he does know that, it's not that he comprehends that at the time. It's like one of those, like, yeah, my dad just did stuff. And was like, okay, yeah, I did a lot of stuff, and it was just to get to just to get to him, or and all those things was just to make miracles happen. Like literally like things like, oh yeah, that normally doesn't happen. Like I know, like even in the situation where the child support came in, is not something that most people have the luxury of kind of going like, okay, yeah, I was able to get my child from their other parent because of yada 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 yada. So I know I'm very fortunate to be in the seat that I'm currently in, because I know that a lot of other single dads do not get that. And I say single dads mainly because I'm a dad, of course, but obviously, you know, there are single moms in the same situation where they do not have, where they legitimately try as hard as I have, and they haven't gotten as far as I've gotten. Um, but like yeah, like it was the court dates, sleepless nights, the fighting against someone who at one time was like the center of your world, right? And now a villain you have anxiety and PTSD from, and can you imagine being forced to cooperate with somebody who has injured you to the point of medical harm? Like that is kind of what some people have to go through. Like people who have to deal with the abusers and abusees and everything else like that. Like it is that kind of insanity. And then imagine like all going through all that for the child to go like, you know what, since the other parent had less responsibilities, was more fun, I want to stay with them. I'm like, oh, well then that's gonna flip. Granted, that's the logical thing, but it's still gonna hurt. It's still gonna hurt. And I think like I've been thinking about that a lot more recently, and that has been kind of giving me like levels of anxiety, things to be worried about, because oh yeah, I don't have enough to worry about, right? So yeah, I know that was a long section. I appreciate you guys sticking around for that one. The next one, believe it or not, I already made a video about. It's still dad car issues. You know, sure. I'll car issues. So that is, and I already made a video about that. It's just in the Still Dad series. If you go to the playlist, you'll see it there. I wish I could just add a little bing up here, but like it won't do it like that. But the situation when it comes to that was that my car's alternator decided to like completely die, decided to die in one night, die and then go dead. But long story short, so I said that last week was the child support. The week before that was the car issue. And imagine that, like, my mind's like, okay, great. Now the car, which is our main form of transportation, how my son gets to school, how we go to doctor's appointments, how I'm going to go to court, is no longer working. I have to find a way to make all these other things work without a car and still keep everything functioning well. And I honestly don't believe, I don't think many people understand the pressure of someone who is head of household. Like, oh yeah, this thing isn't working, and this thing is a core fundamental part of the functioning of a household, and it's kind of like, hope you can fix that. So like there's obviously a lot of stress there, a lot of just a lot, but like yeah, like overcompensating the entire thing. I was able to, and financially too, I was able to get the part. I was hoping I could get it. You know, like this alternator, $200. I was lucky enough to get it for $50 from a Rock Auto website, which seems to really do really well, and I was able to install it that weekend. So sadly, that was the weekend after the court hearing, but like it was still something that like I had to figure out how to get my son to school, how to figure out how to get Donna's daughter to her apartment, Donna to myself as well. We had to move things around so that, like, okay, maybe we can't do it this week, maybe we could do it next week, and I hope to get the car fixed up by then. So like, luckily I was very fortunate to have my granddad with me. So a lot of people were, I'm gonna say this, a lot of people did offer like, hey, I know this mechanic that can, like, look into your car and everything else, and I realized this a long time ago, I do not function on the same level as everybody else. And I say that because most people go like, oh, $200, let that roll. They have a different comprehension of how money works, and I'm literally trying to keep afloat this boat that looks decent from the outside, but the amount of work that I have to do on a regular basis to keep it afloat is tremendous. I'm not cutting corners, but at the same time, it's not like it looks like champagne, but really it's just sparkling water. So so when most people kind of go like, oh spend some extra money and go get your car towed and take it to this garage and maybe they can fix it. It's kind of like, okay, well, all that's going to cost money that I don't even have. Like, I barely even had money for the part. I luckily got help with that from my brother's brother who helped me out with that. So thank you out there, Big D, if you hear this. But it wasn't for him, I would have gotten that part as quickly as as quickly or as cheaply as I could have gotten it. And then I realized, okay, well, if I can put the part in by myself, then I don't have to spend the $200 on the tow. I don't have to spend the $200 to $300 for them to work on it. So with the help of my granddad, he actually came down and he looked over my shoulder. I'm like, hey, just tell me what I need to do and I'll do it. I'll be the hand here, and I'm learning as I'm doing it. So, and that's why I really appreciate him the most. I'm sorry if I'm just like my words, but like, yeah, I really do appreciate it that like he is the guy that I can call on and he can be like, okay, you got this, cool, you need to do this, and I'll do that, and I might be kind of slow with it, I might not understand it, but he would have the patience with me to be able to like, okay, well, let me break this down for you, because I'm always asking questions, I'm always trying to figure out, like, oh, why do I do this, like, keep in mind, as I'm asking, I'm also doing it. I'm like, oh, why do you pull this in here, or why am I undoing this one? I'm like, oh, like, and he's willing to like be patient with me and like answer my questions and deal with my my personality. So there's that. Excuse me. So yeah, I was able to get it done that weekend, and that was the weekend of the 1st of February. So okay, so the car broke down on the 21st. 120. No, well, hold on. We're looking at the wrong calendar. The car broke down on 24th? Yeah, 24th. That's crazy. And then the child support thing happened at that's not right. Yeah, the 28th. So, like, they were just kind of like back to back. And then this happened on the 6th. So, like, yeah, like it's kind of like boom, 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 boom. So all that car issues and like so, and I was telling my colleague Kelly, and all of this, the car issue, and she was like, regular people would have said screw it on like step 2, where she sees me and she goes, you don't know when to stop. I'm like, because I can't stop. I don't have the ability. Even if I had nobody else, it would still be like, this is my car. I am going to fix it. And whatever I can't do, then somebody else can handle it. And then I'll figure out how to do everything else there. But like, I don't know how to quit. I don't know how to be like, stop. Because in my mind, I'm like, it needs to be done. So like, I do find pride in my determination in that. So that was definitely a learning experience for me. Oh, this is gonna be crazy. Okay, so all right. So this next part. All right, this is dealing with my son, and my son, he is in band, right? And he plays the trumpet, and that was originally more him and his mom's thing, and even with his band is his lowest grade. And I'm like, are you sure you still want to do this? And he's like, yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, because this is something that you and your mom kind of worked on to do. So I'm like, okay, I totally agree and I totally respect that. And that's what you want to do? Fine, but I'm not going to get in the way of that. Even though it was his lower grade. I think his grade was like 33 on like the highest. It would get to 100, but then like quickly come back down to like, you'd either be an A or an F. It wouldn't be like anywhere in between. But like the week of the 17th of January, we were going over his homework, and one of his assignments were to practice on his trumpet. So after an hour of practicing on his trumpet, because when he does his homework, he does it like in my office. I asked him, hey man, I hear you practicing, you're playing the notes on the tablet, and you're trying to mimic that. Hey, do you mind playing a song for me? And he just kind of looks at me nervously, and I'm like, yo man, just play whatever. It doesn't have to be good. I just want to hear it, man. I realize I'm so busy with all the things that I do. Other than concerts that I'm mixed up with, like hearing everybody else play. I don't really hear you play. I don't even when you're in your room, you don't play this trumpet. It just stays down here until you're ready to go to school and you take it to school. So like, do you mind playing that for me? So like, after 15 minutes of him kind of like, playing trying to set things up, and I'm like, he's stalling. He's stalling. I'm like, I don't know why he's stalling, but he's stalling right now. And I'm like, all right, buddy, all right. So let me try to say it like this. How about this? I'll give you like 10 seconds to just play a note. Just play a singular note for me, and I would be quite content with that. Just play a singular note for me. And he's looking at me sideways, and I'm like counting down 10, 9, 8. I'm like, maybe he's just shy, maybe and everything else, but like I need to at least hear something. And after 10 seconds, I give him another 5. I'm not just saying nothing. I'm like, okay, well, may I just give him that space? Because like he had an hour, then he had like 10 minutes of stalling, and then I gave him 10 seconds, and I'm giving him this extra chance. I'm like, all right, buddy. I'm beginning to see something. I'm beginning to see that like I'm like, play me. Like you couldn't play me a song. You couldn't play me 2 notes, and you couldn't properly play me a singular note because like he tried blowing into it, and it made a sound, and he's like, I'm like, why are you acting like this the first time? You've been doing this for like a year and a half, almost 2 years. What do you mean you're showing me that like you don't know what you don't know what this is? Like you haven't been doing this for a year and a half. And he's like, I'm like, do you not know how to play? He's like, not really. I'm like, how? And he's like, well, it's hard to kind of blow into it. I'm like, yeah, but that's like the first month, maybe the first year that like, you worked to get your lungs working like that. Technically, my primary was like, I should have asked him to do this sooner, but like, once again, in my mind, it was more him and his mom thing. I'm like, oh, cool. I take care of all the other subjects: math, social studies, English, literature. I'll handle all the other academics, and she can do whatever she does with her time with him when it comes to this. So in part of my mind was like, okay, they're going to take care of it, and then there was this other part of my mind like I should have still have been like, hey, play me this real quick. It wouldn't have gotten this bad. So like. He said it's hard for him to blow into. My mind goes like, okay, maybe he has a hard time. Maybe like, he has asthma of some sort. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, if that's the thing, then we need to check into it. And I'm like, well, then I'm thinking to myself, like, we went to like 2 or 3 concerts of his. I'm like, so like, you haven't been able to play this instrument. We went to like 2 or 3 of your concerts. What you do is like, I would look at my neighbor and look at where they put their fingers, and then I would just copy their fingers and pretend to blow. And I'm like, my son's a con artist. My son's a con artist. Wow. So like, I'm like, all right, I'm not even mad. Like I'm not like I'm flabbergasted a little bit, yeah, but I'm not mad because once again, in my mind, it's this isn't my thing. My thing is your academics. And I've noticed that this has been bringing down your academics. The only thing that, honestly, this is one of the main things that was bringing down him being in honor roll was him being in band. And I'm like, okay, well, how about this? Like, since you you ain't really feeling this. Like, no, I told the teacher I didn't want to do this anymore. I'm like, oh yeah, because he said that he wanted to play like concussions, drums, and all that. But like, they obviously already had people in those positions. And I'm like, oh, then, and keep in mind when he asked me that, then I'm like, oh, my mind was still thinking that, oh, he knows how to play. We've been going to concerts. He's been learning. We've been seeing him play, and it's just been one of those kind of wild moments where I was just kind of like, okay, look, everything else on the side. If you don't like playing this instrument anymore, man, I ain't gonna make you. And I'll talk to your mom, but as far as I'm concerned, we could drop this subject today. I'll send an email to your teacher and be like, hey, he ain't even gonna be in band anymore into next year, where he might try out for percussions, and then we'll see what we can do from that point forward. But right now, being in something that's just taking up time, bringing down his average, he doesn't even like doing it, and and physically he's incapable of doing it. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, let's just drop it. It hasn't been until this week that like I was able to convince him don't like, hey, buddy, you don't need to take the trumpet to school anymore. He's like, but I might still want to go. I'm like, buddy, Lord, Henley, you don't need to, buddy. But I'm like, look, if you want to go, if you want to make that attempt again, cool, make the attempt. Do not bullshit me. Do not bullshit your teacher. Do not waste our time in this. If you only want to go, let's say because of a girl, like, Dad, I don't like no girls. All right, cool. It's 2025. If you look good because of a boy, Dad, I don't like no boys. All right, cool. All right, then why are you doing it? I don't know. Like, I just been used to it. I know, buddy. I know, and it's the routine thing. It's part of being on the spectrum. He's just used to, like, I have two things to carry. I do this and I do this on a regular basis. I get that, but we're at a point now where doing that is more detrimental to your academic development. And we should drop this so we could potentially pick something else up. So, like, the idea is that, like, he's going to stop doing it. We're going to see where his grades are at, and then we're going to see where his options are in the future. So, I'm hoping that between now and the next coming school year, he will come up with another thing that he would want to do. So, even if it is percussions, that's fine. It will give me time to be able to, like, if it's the big drums and he can only play them in school, cool. If it's like with the cymbals and all that, then that ends up being a completely different thing where, like, I have to find out how to afford that, where we would put that, and everything else. So, like, like, once again, if that's something that, like, him and his mom want to do, like, on the weekends, they can play drums over at her place at school. And if that's the case, and, she's paying for that. But, like, but I do want him to do things that he likes to do now, compared to, like, I'll do it when I'm older. Because when you're older, it might not be an option. When you're older, it might not be a thing. When you're older, it might not be a possibility. So, like, if he has the possibility to do something that he wants to do now, like, let's say chess, or play or RC, or robotics, or just anything. Like, heck, there's a board game club that he was part of. Honestly, now I say it out loud, I haven't asked him about that either. I should probably ask, like, yo, how's that chess? How's that board game club that you're a part of? He's probably gonna be like, man, Dad, I dropped that. I'm like, oh, cool, all right, cool. We need to start. Well, either we need to start having better conversations, or I need to ask better questions. One of those two things. And once again, it's the development. Is the idea, like, okay, this is the area where things are not working right, and I'm just trying to be like, okay, well, this is where I want to go. How do I make this become this? So, like, I'm just learning as I'm going. As comical as it might be, it is still that learning experience that I am trying to do to the best of my ability to be the best father that I can be. With that being said, the next subject. Jeez, it's almost an hour. But it's been like weeks. It's been weeks of me. Alright, so story of... Oh, man. I'm going to touch on this very briefly because it's not my story to tell, but it made me feel something deep inside as a single father, as a father who is, I don't want to say struggling, but is having growth pains. Is that the term? Because though the idea, so this is a friend of mine who's also a single dad is having a situation where he is struggling with his baby mama. All right, let me put it like that. And to the point where he's kind of like, you know what, screw it. I'm almost at the verge of just being done with the whole thing. Of saying, you know what, screw this whole thing. I don't want to deal with you. And if that means dropping the kiddos, I will do that. And I'm like, and whenever I heard this, I ran to my friend like, yo, don't. And the things that I know what that feels like. I know the idea. Keep in mind, my scenario is traumatically different than most people. But at the same time, it is still the idea of, I believe that most single fathers tend to, I don't want to say most, a lot, I can say a lot of single fathers don't want to deal with the baby mama. Granted, their own choice, they put their car in the baby mama's garage, so, like, the consequences of your actions, but, like, at the same time, you have to understand that is your responsibility. And this friend of mine, he is a good dad. He is trying. And there's a lot of dads I see out there who are not giving a shit. So when I see him like, having a weak moment, I'm like, I grab him like, yo man, do not do this. Do not make this moment of anger define the relationship between you and your kids. And it kind of already like, made, like the relationship between him and his baby mama made things very, very rocky. So try to be as supportive as I can with him. Like, hey man, regardless of what happens, remember, you are a good dad. Show them that. Show your kids that. Do whatever it takes to do that. Because otherwise, if you go screw this whole thing, let me walk away, those are things you can't undo. And when they're old enough to be able to come to you, they're not going to have those memories of you giving a shit. They're going to have the memories of you not giving a shit. And then it's not going to be like, oh yeah, I can explain. Like, it won't matter because you weren't there. You weren't there. Like, oh, your mom. They won't care about that. They'll care that, oh, mom gave you a hard time. Now that we're older, we see that. They'll see that better than you left because shit got real. You left because shit got hard. And shit could be baby mama once again. But like, it's still the idea, like, don't let that one moment of anger and frustration, like, why is she dogging me like this? Why is she this? And trust me, I get it. The court hearing I had earlier terrified the shit out of me. Like, they were like I don't want to use the word terrified the shit out of me. It stressed me out the entire month. The anxiety for it was just tremendously high. And like, I just didn't want, it wasn't I didn't want to go, I just didn't want to be in the same room as her. I didn't want to be in like striking distance. I didn't want there to be a scene. I just didn't want to deal with any of that. So like, I get it, I do. And being able to kind of help him out, realize like, hey man, don't give up. You're going to have to try harder now. But it is worth it to try it harder now than you thinking that when they turn 18, they're going to be like, oh, dear old dad, how you doing? They're going to see that you just left because it was easiest for you. And being a parent is all about sacrifice. At least that's what I think. And I was able to have, like, convince them the same thing. So, like, that, I guess to me, that is definitely a plus. That's definitely a plus. Next story. Which happened the week prior to this. What? All right. So this situation, which my girlfriend, I guess I could say my fiance, because at this point in anybody's relationship, we never, like, you are at the stage of life that I'm currently in, is no, like, you're not really playing games. I'm like, oh, I'm just playing around with you. Like, we're gonna have some fun together. Kind of. My mind goes like, oh, if I'm spending this kind of time and energy, I am spending this kind of energy to potentially build something greater. So like, you're not you're not a right now person, you're my forever person. So that aside, her daughter had surgery the week prior. I want to say that week was the week of the 13th. Holy crap. It's been a crazy month. And what she needed to do, the tubes in her ears fell out, so they had to have surgery to take that remaining tube out and put new tubes back in. So that and it was a very quick procedure, but like, it was an all day thing, trying, like, going to the doctor's office to get the surgery done, and then waiting for the doctor to get to us, and then the surgery, which took 10 minutes, and then waiting for the recovery was an entire day thing. I had to actually go back, pick up my son, and then drive back to pick up the girls, and then drive us all back home. And this was before my car broke down. So like, keep in mind, like, this happened, and the car breaks down. So like, but she was a trooper. She did great. Really proud of her for everything that she was able to push through and make happen. Really proud of her on that. And yeah, it was just a really good. The surgery went well. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Yeah, the surgery went well. Ooh, toxic friends. There we go. So I've had a situation. I've been having the situations for a while now where I have had a friend. My one friend, she's annoying as hell. I love her though, like a sister, and which is great, which is fine, which is awesome. The thing is, like, sometimes she pushes buttons too far. And I know not all of it is her fault. Some of it is her brother's fault. I'm gonna say that because, all right. So so my one friend, female friend, let's say, she's a streamer too, and she loves it, and I love it for her. Like she doesn't do the same production value that I do, but like she's happy doing it, and she's getting people to come to her channel, which is great. And then her brother loves to rub it in, like, oh yeah, she's getting more traffic than you are, and I'm like, I'm still happy for her, but it's one of those things like he said it, and the words are now in my ear, in my brain, like every now and again, my always kind of like, yeah, how the hell, but like it is just that whatever. Most other people who I know stream seem to have like less to present than me. Like as you see, like there's a lot of stuff that I do here, and yet like they tend to get more audience than me, and I'm learning to kind of like I like doing this format because one is kind of like constant. Like even I'm looking at the stream, I'm like, okay, I know who I'm watching, I know what day it is, I know what's happening. Chat's over here, and this is all like my social media stuff for whatever the reason. So like, is all the things that I think is important. And especially if I need to ever go back and go like, okay, well, what part of the conversation do I need to cut, like edit or whatever. So it's all there. So like, I had the reasons of doing what I'm doing. With all that being said, I've always been supportive. If she ever needs help, like, oh, I don't know how to make this window show, but okay, let me help you. Go live on Discord, and I'll walk you through the process of what you need to click on and everything else. But there are some times, and it's weird, like I'm willing to help her, but then like whenever he's around, she is like a bitch to me. It's really hard to explain. Like if I would suggest a game, she goes, "Oh, I don't want to play that game." I'm like, "Okay, cool. I guess we're just playing whatever game you want to play." I will compliment her, like, "Oh yeah, nice job on that," and she'll be like, "Oh, shut up," and she'll constantly be like, "Oh, I don't like you." At the same time, whenever she needs help, like, "Hey, Nikki, can you help me?" And it's kind of like one of those like, I don't know. Common sense tells you like, okay, well, screw this person, but at the same time, like, it's one of those like I don't think like if I were to walk away, she'd be like, well, I don't mean to be like that. Like, oh, but you are. So like, and keep in mind, her brother's almost like he's a different level of this toxicity, but keep in mind these are my two only friends that I communicate like this with. Most of my other friends I tend to like just text and like every now and again and keep them updated and whatever. And one of the reasons I do this stuff, but like people who I keep in contact with regularly are these two people, and we game all the time. So these are my only two friends. Without them, I probably would like be bugging on my other people more, and then they want to leave. With all that being said, there was a situation that happened around the second week of January where like they were kind of on me a little bit harder than like or either they were on me harder than I wanted, or like I didn't have enough tokens to be able to handle that kind of shit. And I say tokens by like every day you have like 5 tokens to be able to deal with stress, to be able to deal with this, that, whatever. And everything that happens takes a token away. So like if I wake up every morning with like 100 tokens and I stub my shit, that's 5 tokens. Oh, I missed the bus, that's 20 tokens. Oh, the boss was looking for this position, okay, that's 30 tokens. When I get home, this, that, whatever, okay, well that's 7 tokens. And eventually you run out of tokens, you're like, oh, I'm done with today. And I think most people can understand and relate to that. When I was playing with them this one time, they were like they were roasting me a little bit too hard, and it was a little bit too late in the night for me to be like, yeah, let's just keep going with that. And my man was like, nah, shut it down. I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm good. I'm gonna all F4. I'm going to bed. It's 2 o'clock. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. I think I'm completely justified in saying, yeah, I'm out. So I got F4 and went to bed, and I felt better for it. I'm like, okay, cool, because I felt like I was overdrafting. my tokens. I just didn't want to do that. So since then, me and her haven't had a conversation. Things have almost came to blows a few times, but it hasn't gotten that bad yet. And I think she kind of realized some of what her behavior was. I would say his behavior too, and I think he's trying to do the same thing because he's been backing away, and that's one of the things I don't want. Like, if you address an issue, the last thing I want you to do is back away. I'm addressing an issue so that we can work on it, we can fix it, and we can continue our friendship. I don't want you to change the way you are and then hate me because I'm asking you to change. I'm not asking you to change. I'm asking you to look at your situation and tell me, is this where you? Hold on. Okay, that's shininess. This is where you want to be. Is this where our friendship is? Is this where you want to be? And some people are like, oh yeah, I'll just take a few steps back and disappear in the background. I'm like, no, I don't want to lose you as a friend. I just don't want to always be shit on. I don't want to. I am a fond believer of, if you are going to give harsh criticism, make sure that you add it with some good shit. Because if all you're doing is bringing your friends down, and that's all you're doing, you're not even adding any more tokens to the situation. Because yes, you can add tokens to your bank. Well, other people can add tokens to your bank by saying nice things to you, or just helping you out, or understanding your situation, giving you someone to listen to, or giving you someone who will listen to your problem. Like that, those kind of things put tokens into your bank. And if you're constantly the one to always take tokens out of somebody's bank and never put anything in it, are you really a good friend? And the answer to that, at least in my situation at that time, was nah, I'm good. So I backed away, and I came back whenever my bank was filled again. So yeah, learning how to deal with toxicity and my own mental health. Because I guess the worst thing is and this happens now, that my one male friend, the one I just talked about, not the female one, but the male one. Sometimes I will do something and I will hear his words in my head, and it's always a negative one. So even if he's not actively taking away those tokens, the memory of the things that he says that is associated to this situation has now taken tokens out of my bank, and it's not even helping him. It's one of, and I doubt he even knows this, and it's not, and to a certain degree, it's not even his fault. It's just something that just is at this point, because this is how he has created the persona around him. So yeah, learning things one thing at a time. All right, so I actually finished. Oh my god, just underneath an hour. I got 40 seconds, so I want to say thank you guys for dealing with me for now. Holy crap, I appreciate that so much, so very much. And that is my update for freaking January. It's been crazy, and I know the world out there is crazier too, guys. Everything's nuts. My life is constantly busy, but I know the real life out there is nuts. Be good to each other out there. Be good to yourselves, and be sure to keep adding tokens into your bank, because if you don't do it, people will definitely take that shit out. Help other people, because people definitely need help out here. All right. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next stream. Okay. Later.